Okay, for my project, I took the crime data set to analyze violent crime rates in the North versus the South from 1960 to 2012. So an abstraction is a technique used by computer scientists in order to reduce the complexity of real-world systems by removing extraneous information that can be better modeled on a computer. For this study, I abstracted crimes into a list of violent crime rate reports over a 52-year period from 1960 to 2012. All of these reports have different properties that correspond to the project. In this study, they have rates and they have totals. For this study, we're only looking at rates and not the totals when looking at the actual data map. Rates is a dictionary that contains float properties representing the percent rate in which designated crimes occurred at a certain state at a certain time. We need this in order to filter the data to see the rates of violent crimes committed rather than the totals. We use population, which is an integer property that represents the total number of people living in a certain state at a certain time. And we use violent, which is a dictionary that contains float properties representing the rates of each violent crime committed in a certain state at a certain time, as well as population and as rates. And the final one would be all, which is a float property containing the sum of all violent crime rates committed in a certain state at a certain time. We need this in order to select for all violent crime rates committed in the state that we are analyzing, whether it be in the North or versus the South. So the biggest limitations that actually arise when we're looking at this data would be complexity and completeness. Complexity in the sense that there may not be enough data to draw an adequate conclusion of the North versus the South for actual crime rates, and complexity being that if we have to analyze multiple variables when we want to draw a good conclusion, such as analyzing changes over population over the same period of time as we're analyzing violent crime rates over time. So on the right, we can see an entire data map of all of the data within the crime data set, which is a list of dictionaries containing all of the data that we want. From there, we can pull different lists and different dictionaries of the information we need in order to answer our question. So for our study, we will be looking at the dictionary rates, the dictionary violent, and all of the float values all. And these are all keys in order to pull the exact information that we need to answer the study, which would be all violent crime rates committed in a specific state over a certain period of time. So that actually brings me to our question that we have for the study. In 2013, the FBI conducted a study that claimed that the South has more violent crime rates than the rest of America, with Tennessee at the forefront of them all. Business Insider actually released this article citing this study and raised the question if the southern area of the United States is more violent than the northern area. It may be important to see the correlation between violent crimes in the South versus the North over a long period of time in order to determine the accuracy of the study and see the possible social impacts that come with it. So how has violent crime rates in southern states, our example would be Tennessee, compared to northern states, our example would be Maine, from 1960 to today? So using Python, we can actually create a visualization in order to help us answer these questions. So on the right, we can see a graph of violent crime rates in Tennessee versus Maine from 1960 to 2012. The red line being Maine and the purple line being Tennessee, with the y-axis being violent crime rates per population and the x-axis being time, with all the far left being 1960 and all the far right being 2012, with everything in between being in between those years. So we can see that over that period of time, Tennessee has had a great increase of violent crime rates compared to Maine, which had a small increase in violent crime rates that has slowly dropped off past 1970 and 1980. This is an early indicator that the South has higher crime rates than the North when comparing the two. So including more variables in a study is a better way to increase the accuracy and precision of the study. So for this, I've also included a visualization that compares the population rates in Tennessee versus Maine over the same period of time that we looked at violent crime rates. We can see that the purple line, which is still Tennessee, has had almost 4 times the amount of people than Maine has had. Now, this is an indicator that possibly population difference could be a contributing factor to violent crime rates. Based off of the data and the visualizations provided, we can see that the study conducted by the FBI is relatively true when it comes to the South having higher violent crime rates than that of the North, based off of the first visualization. We can also conclude that states with higher populations will tend to have higher violent crime rates than states with lower populations, based off the second visualization. So why does this matter? What are the impacts of this study, and what could this possibly imply? So we need to consider the stakeholders, the impacts, and the conflicts that are present in the study. So the stakeholders for this case would be individuals who want to purchase a home in the US, real estate companies attempting to sell their home, people who currently live within a certain area of the United States, politicians or other powerful individuals who currently represent different areas of the United States. and conflicts can arise between these different stakeholders, such as individuals wanting to leave or possibly stay within their state based off of violent crime rates, which will have an impact on politicians, an impact on who gets elected, an impact on different issues that the community may want to actually address, whether it be violent crime rates or there's too many people or not enough people. And these are all things that can possibly arise from a violent crime rate study being released to the study. People who realize there's less crime in another state may emigrate out. This could result in a population decrease for the state with high crime and a population increase for the state with low crime. Politicians may advocate, push for legislation to reduce the amount of violent crime in some southern states. Individuals in northern states might advertise that they have less violent crime or they have less people in order to bring in more people because of these facts. I have neither given nor received unauthorized assistance on this assignment.